Blog Talk Radio.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you very much for spending this hour with me. We are going to sort of continue a discussion that began after I made a Facebook post that some people considered problematic. So I really want to hear from you. Please do remember this is a call-in show. The number is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. I would appreciate you giving us a call, letting us know what you think about this issue. Well, how did this get started? Well, beforehand, how was your week? What do you think are the big stories of the week? What do you think is of importance? What do you think we have forgotten, not covered, need to have been covered in all the stories that we have been posting on our main Facebook Coffee Party USA site? It's actually now at Join Coffee Party USA. So what do you think we've missed? We've had a whole lot of stories ranging from the horrendous killing of the 3 students, as well as the different stories we've had on the financial crisis, money in politics, the same things. Is there something you wanted covered that wasn't covered? Anyhow, give me a call, 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. If you want to speak, please make sure to push 1 so that I can see it on the board here that you actually want to say something. So what happened? A friend of mine over at Daily Coast, Leslie Salcio, she wrote a post that was touching because it covered the murder of the 3 students, Muslim students, but the most important part of this story that she gave had to do with she didn't quite say it, but she was extolling empathy. So this week I stepped into it big time. I made the following post on the Coffee Party website. So what did I say in the post? All I said was simply, hopefully this incident will encourage some humanity from atheists like Bill Maher. That's it. Muslim safe. Now, what did that post point to? That post pointed to the following article, and what I'm going to do is first read the article as posted that created the problem. Okay, so here's how it went. It said as follows. It is poetic justice in a salient, macabre manner that it is an atheist that effected the irrationally violent murders of 3 Muslim students. One can be sure that atheists Bill Maher and Sam Harris do not want anyone to equate atheists as a Muslim murdering bunch. They're not. Of course not. This is a thought process that I'm trying to get to. Continuing. Daily Coast, Leslie Salcio wrote a must-read piece, and I linked to that piece, where she spoke about Craig Stephen Hicks, the alleged murderer of the Muslim student. The following snippet jumped out at me. She titled it, About the Atheist Who Killed 3 Young Muslims in North Carolina. She wanted that provocative title, and I know that has to do with having had Bill Maher take the stance, the rather rigid stance that he took on painting Muslims as a people in a particular manner. Anyway, this is what Leslie said. I mentioned atheists in the title because I want the media, especially the liberal media, to make sure it is not left out. Why? Because if we were a Muslim, or rather, if he were a Muslim, it would be mentioned. And if he were a Christian, it would be mentioned. What's more important here is for the world to know this man is much more than anything he proclaims to be. This man is an extremist. Hicks does not speak for atheists, just as ISIS does not speak for Muslims, just as Netanyahu does not speak for Jews, just as Scott Roeder and Pat Robertson do not speak for Christians. But still, many believe the extremists are who they say they are, especially if it's being propagated on self-proclaimed news like Fox. Just 3 days ago, Fox implied the only Muslims kill, or rather, that only Muslims kill in the name of religion, and Pat Robertson has stated in the past that Muslims want global domination. These people are crazed fanatics, and I want to say it now. I believe it's motivated by demonic time. We recognize that what we were dealing with. So said Robert. But Leslie continues. Extremists do not represent the religions, organizations, and non-believers they claim. They represent hate. Hate in its purest form. They are the worst of the worst in human spirit. If there is a hell, it's from whence they came and to where they will return. Let's listen. This is me speaking now. Leslie Salcios gets it perfectly correct. One hopes that Bill Maher, Sam Harris, confused liberals, confused conservatives, and right-wing ideologues will heed Ms. Salcios' statement and President Obama's call for humility in us all. And I also pointed to the president's speech where he talks about humility, and he spoke about all the religions and what they've done, etc., etc., etc. Well, that post really got me slapped around quite a bit. Take it. I mean, it exploded. I mean, when you have messages that supersede likes on one area, it was disconcerting. But I want to read what the blog post of the day is. But before I go there, I want to remind folks this. The reaction was mostly negative towards the post. I received threats by message and emails. What did I do wrong? I had the gall to call out Bill Maher using a nuanced and to some extent condescending tone to point out why his rigid stance on Muslims was neither correct or helpful. Since the person that killed the 3 students claimed he was an atheist, I was trying to see if empathy would reign based on how some would attempt to vilify all atheists for the act. The reaction was to make no attempt, meaning the reaction from the group or from the page, was to make no attempt to understand that I was on the side of most that were slamming me. After all, I'm a humanist with the expectation that there would be some introspection. Anyway, this is what we will discuss. But before we discuss it, you know what time it is. It's time for the blog of the week. And the blog of the week tied on to this piece. This is how it started. I named the blog of the week. Sometimes it simply is the weeding out of the posers. Because after reading the stats, there was something quite interesting. I am a fan of Bill Maher, definitely. The comedian satirist is a less polished version of Jon Stewart. He is generally on point, absent his condescending starkness to those that disagree with him. Over the last few years, Bill Maher has taken to what many consider the demonization of Islam. Reza Aslan did a very good job of debunking the reasons for Bill Maher's absolutist stance on Islam. Glenn Greenwald schooled him on the geopolitical nature of killing. Maher simply does not consider the possibility that he may be wrong, misinformed, or partially wrong or misled. That is not the point of his piece, though. I first thought the point of this piece would be to explore the power of giving people the opportunity to feel justified with voicing recessed prejudice or bigotry. In my opinion, that is what Bill Maher is doing. How so many that believe in a liberal ideology that promotes free speech and open and diverse thinking can display the same insensitivity and behavior of those they summarily criticize that are anathema to that behavior. As I continued writing, it was evident it was simply about posers. Posers. Daily Close blogger Leslie Salcio wrote a piece, and we discussed that title about the atheist who killed 3 young Muslims in North Carolina. She made a very salient point. I mentioned atheists in the title because I think it is important for the media, especially the liberal media, to make sure the word is not left out. Why? Because if the killer were a self-proclaimed Christian, it would be mentioned, and if the killer was a proclaimed Muslim, it would be mentioned. And what's really important is for the world to know this man is not an atheist in any true sense. He's much different than anything he proclaims to be. This man is an extremist. The piece was important because the attempt was to empower people to use the event of Muslims being killed as a catalyst to remove religion, ideology, etc. from violent acts by extremists or simply acts by violent people. It was absolution of unnecessary guilt by any group. The discussion on Daily Kos was vibrant. I piggybacked on her piece because it was a constructive message. I added a bit of Bill Maher's condescension and a call for humility as discussed by the president in the blog post. In a salient, macabre manner, that it is an atheist that affected irrational, violent murders of 3 Muslim students, one can be sure that atheist Bill Maher and Sam Harris do not, and I'm quoting my previous, Leslie Salcio got it perfectly right, so I won't repeat that little snippet that I quoted, but here's the deal. The conversation at Daily Kos was tame compared to the slaughter and incoming flack the piece took when it was posted to the Coffee Party USA main Facebook page. I received all kinds of threats. One said that the post had better be down by Saturday or else. Or else what, I wonder? Are they going to find me and blow me up? I'm saying for actually speaking what I thought? I wonder sometimes. But you know, activism requires that one stick with their values until their values are proven to be wrong and needing to be changed, which in my case, I don't have attachment to ideologies. I have attachment to values, and if values must change because what I thought they should be, I would change. Gladly. Continuing. The piece seemed to have offended many liberals and atheists. I was immediately reminded of Daily Kos's Chauncey De Vega piece called Liberal Racism, 25 Things I Learned After I Wrote About ISIS and White Racism at the Daily Kos. That was the title. I have a link to it. It's a good read. Liberals and atheists are usually considered to be groups that understand, they generally think through different levels of indirection. They generally entertain robust dialogue without the requirement of full agreement. After all, there are in fact things and issues that are not black and white. Entropy reigns. One would expect these groups to understand that. Just as I was about to conclude that there was no point in trying to engage where one knows incoming flack would abound, I remembered my training. Guess what? I am an engineer, so why don't I just look at numbers? I'm a numbers guy. I looked at the likes and the recommends on Leslie's and De La Vega articles. I looked at the likes and shares on my blog post and on the correspondent post at Coffee Party USA's Facebook page. It turns out many more readers get the point or got the point than those collated incessantly without adding value to the conversation. It's not about disagreeing or agreeing. It's not about it is just about hyperventilation. So I repeat, it turns out many more readers got the point, and I think I got a grammatical error there that I need to fix. It turns out many more readers got the point than those that hyperventilate incessantly. without adding value to the conversation. What I want to do is add value to conversation because that's what we're all about. You know, we don't have to agree. Even after we've discussed and conversed, we don't have to agree. We just have to make sure that, you know, we can love each other without having to say, hey, you must think exactly like I do. In my old age, that's what I've learned. Well, I'm not all that old, but not like. So what then is the point? Many will object or agree with a post for justifiable reasons. Not a problem. May generate a lot of noise from some that object or agree irrationally. Again, some may just agree or disagree for no purpose, just an irrational agreement or disagreement. And the same applies for those who may, you know, have justifiable reasons for each. But that noise is not necessarily representative of the prevailing feeling. In fact, many times it is just a weed out of posers. So before I get to the lines, and I'm coming to the lines right now, I want to put that in context with Facebook postings, blog postings, etc. When one gets the type of attack or assault, you know, verbal assault that let's say I received for that post, many people cower to those types of actions. In fact, a lot of those actions a lot of times are orchestrated to do just that. Shut down dissent, shut down opinion, shut down all these issues. It is important that we realize that, especially in the world of the internet, where speech, and not only speech, but dialogue and conversation sometimes is immediately stifled by organized attacks to ensure that your point of view never gets either gets an audience or the ability to metastasize within. Shouldn't use metastasize here because what I want to use is something positive, to grow within the body politic, within the community, things that are good. The Koch brothers would not want certain things to be out there because when it seems to be very rational and it's completely different from what they believe in, then what happens? It grows within the body politic, and when that growth occurs, change occurs. So, a message to all people who post, all people who blog your values, blog your thoughts, irrespective of what you receive in flack. If you are blogging values, you are an American who deservedly so has the right to put your thoughts out there unequivocally. There's one exception. Do no harm. I bring that up because of, there are folks that are posting some crazy stuff on vaccines. Not us. Some would want to attempt to say that some of the things that we posted on vaccines, not we, but we have a particular person who posts a lot on vaccines. But I've read them. And I say, and I will say again, folks, open your minds and read and try to understand nuance where nuance is warranted. 412, I am coming to you. 412, who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Good morning, Egberto. This is Greg in Pittsburgh. How are you, sir?
My dear friend Greg Rosak, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Very interesting topic. I guess I have maybe a couple of questions you can help me with first.
Sure.
Can you maybe just enlighten me a little bit more as to what this what the crime itself was and the connection to atheism? Did this perpetrator make a strong stance that he was an atheist, or how'd that start?
No. Let me tell you, first of all, I understand as a thinking human being like you do, Greg, that because Mr. Hicks was a professed, I think his name was Hicks, was a professed atheist, it has nothing to do with him being a cold-blooded, alleged killer. But the point, is that the answer, or you want me to go a little further?
Well, no, actually, that helps to answer the question. I guess what I was asking was, did he go out of his way to profess that the reason that he did what he did was out of his lack of belief in a religion? Was atheism at the core of why he did what he did?
No, he did not profess that at all. At all. In
Okay.
fact,
Okay.
there was one post that folks tried to spin in a light like that, where he tried to make mention that it's best if all these folks, religious folks, were, I don't want to say exterminated, but some there was some post that somebody found. But for me, none of that really mattered, right? What I wanted to do, Greg, is open up the discussion on this under this particular premise.
Sure.
That and the premise that I wanted to
that's
discuss.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Please, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the premise that I really wanted to have a discussion on, because I have some sensitivities because of who I am, that I see things through different lens than many for a specific reason. And what I mean by this is make yourself someone different than the majority, walking around having to believe that because X folks like you commit X types of acts, and that you implicitly are judged on that. You can't. That is something that the majority population in America a lot of times have difficulty seeing. And what's interesting from this debate, it was not seen liberals, conservatives, everybody right now, or I don't mean everybody, but many are channeling Bill Maher. And like what I said in another article that I wrote, Bill Maher is given many not the opportunity, but the what's that word? He's given them permission. Bill Maher, because he's a liberal, he's given a lot of liberals permission to be. I don't want to call it bigot, because it's not bigot. They don't want to be bigots, but they are fearful that that stance that Bill Maher is taking is correct, and then your inner carnality comes out, and that is my fear, and that is the thing. When this professed atheist decided that he wanted to kill, my contention was, okay, my good old atheist friends led by Bill Maher, not all, the ones led by Bill Maher. Suppose we were to take Bill Maher's stance. I mean, it wouldn't be exactly the same, but stance. Suppose we started to paint all atheists that way. It would be wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, so a couple of quick points, and then if there are other callers, by all means, let's go to them too. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying in terms of avoiding the temptation to paint everyone with the same brush. But the reason I asked the question, out of two reasons, one out of ignorance, I until this morning I had no idea that this was even happening in terms of this crime and this guy and whatever his religious affiliation or lack thereof might have been. But I almost get the sense that guy was making the case that he committed these crimes and killed these people who were believers because of his non-belief. Then it feels like you're making a false equivalency here, in so much as ISIS professes to do what they do precisely because of their core values and the religious beliefs that they hold.
Agreed. Okay, two things I want to say. First of all, the story that his wife tells that it had nothing to do with religion is in stark contrast with the story that parents and families of the three Muslim victims had to say. So, I mean, their contention is that he actually showed that type of behavior towards them based on their religion, etc. But I don't even want that to be the case. I mean, I don't even want to necessarily make that the issue specifically because, again, the tenet that I'm trying to take. I could look today and say I am a humanist, and I'm doing this professing that this is what humanists do. ISIS goes ahead and they say, I profess that we are killing people and we're trying to create this caliphate because the mighty Quran told us that we are supposed to do that. Just like a Christian tomorrow, we have some Christian sects in America right now, particularly the Baptist sect that goes around, threatening at funerals, at soldiers, and so forth. We have people who profess to do these things in the name of God. The killers at the abortion clinic profess to do this in the name of God. I mean, there are a lot of us doing that. But we as a society, and I'm coming to you next, date, Shepard, and then Jack. We as a society, there are a lot of things that we see through our lens, right? As an example, when we profess about the violence and the killings of ISIS, that is understood and that is true. These are evil, violent people. The ultimate result is people get their heads cut off, people die painful death. But I have another story to tell you. I am from a country called, originally, I'm a naturalized American citizen. I'm a proud American, and I defend America, and I want to make America better. But I'm originally from a little country called Panama. Let me tell you what happened. In Panama, when Manuel Antonio Noriega, who was a CIA spy at the time, decided he no longer wanted to follow the dictates of America, because I think they wanted him to invade or participate in some sort of a covert action in a Central American country. He decided he didn't want to do that, so we used the drug war stance to get him out. So we decided that we are going to go get a sovereign dictator out of Panama, and in the process, that's not the problem. That is inherently an international problem that was wrong for us to go into another country and take out its leader, irrespective of what he does. But that said, in order to get this one man, they went into David, Colon, and Panama, the three major cities. The cuartel is surrounded by tenements and thousands of buildings, thousands of people who live in these small quarters. They bombed that place incessantly. And in bombing that place incessantly, over 10,000 Panamanians died. It was reported as 1,000 in the United States. It was reported as 4,000 or so by the United Nations. But we, the Panamanians down there, knew the population there. They knew their relatives, and 10,000 people died. Now, I ask you, antiseptic war kills just as bad as ideological war. Who is worse? We are benevolent because we're seeing it through our eyes. So, I mean, these things are not simple issues. I think we have to take a more nuanced approach of what evil is, what bad is. And I think as Americans, a lot of times we don't do that. And what I try to foment here is, let's have the real conversation. Let's get rid of evil as best we can, but let's not force people into being evil or force people to have to feel that they have to first prove they're not evil. Because you, Greg Rosak, never have to walk into a room and prove your values or prove that you're a good man. That you are.
Well, thank you, Egberto. I think the same of you, of course. And again, to your point about whether there's justification for acts of violence. Personally, I don't think there are. Whether it's a political or a religious motivation that drives someone to either kill someone else or invade another country, neither of those. There's nothing on a checklist that says I think that's the right thing to do. I was really just simply trying to understand the connection between this guy Hicks, his lack of his or somehow the connection between him being an atheist and this terrible act of violence. He is a terrible man if he's done this. There's no excuse for extremism, no matter how it's couched, whether it's in a religious set of values or a lack thereof. Totally agree with all that. I'm really struggling to see where there's and again, I don't disagree with what you're saying about Mars' position in some way being perverted into permission for liberals to then start to have a sense of agreement actually with some people in the country who are anti-Muslim. But I want to make sure before you go to the other callers and really say somewhat in defense of both he and Harris and people like myself, and that is what cannot be denied in the religious text and teachings of the big three religions, let's call them that, the big monotheistic religions. All of them share values that include either the conversion of the non-believer or the death to those non-believers. And how people take those teachings today and incorporate them into their life and into their own set of values and actions is what distinguishes someone who believes the better parts of their religion and is able to exclude those horrible and horrendous aspects of it from the extremists who will cut people's heads off because it said so in a book. That's kind of my point.
Correct.
And nowhere do I know. Just finally this. Wait, one last thing. Finally this.
Yeah.
I know of no atheist who believes that people should be killed because of their belief in any religion. I know of no atheist like that, including Bill Maher and Sam Harris.
Listen, Greg. I agree with everything that you said. Everything, because and that's if you reread my blogs, you'll see what I'm trying to do is have this particular discussion. The problem is when I said Bill Maher gave permission to people who are not nuanced to simply think that it is okay, because you made an important point there. The three monotheist religions all have those two tenets: conversion and death to those not converted. And you can go to the Old Testament and see all these things. You can go to the Quran, you can see all these things. So you're absolutely correct. Now, everybody has the freedom to say, I am doing my evil in the name of the bad parts of this book. Right now, ISIS is doing it. But we have to remind folks, and this is where I depart completely from Maher. Maher likes to claim that they've done polls that have tested Muslims and found that a large percentage of them, X amount of them, believe in the caliphate and believe in all these issues. These polls are at best dubious. And Aslan spoke about that they are in fact dubious polls. I mean, we have to remember, when Aslan came out and spoke about, hey, come on, if it is so bad in all these crazy Islamic countries, why is it that we have done certain? We're not denying that there are many of these guys are anti-women, etc., and all these other issues. I don't want to change the subject, but they are just living. There are 1-point-something billion Muslims out there, and they're just living. Turkey, they're just living. Most people are just living, and you have some extremist crazies out there, and some of them getting very large that, we must mitigate, but we cannot get ourselves into that spot where we start painting people. And when you paint people, I remember a movie I saw back a few years ago where they caged all these inner city kids. Not caged them, but the school was built like a cell. And the new principal that got in there, I don't remember the name of the movie, but the new principal that got in there, the first thing he did is said, take out these cages, take down these bars. You treat them like animals, they'll act like animals. You treat any group, and a lot of times what you get out of that group is the disrespect that you actually implied that they were falsely. So that's pretty much what I want to say. But Greg, stay with me. I'm leaving you hot. Let me go to my favorite other Dead guy. Hey, Dead Shepherd, come on in, my friend. How you doing?
How you guys doing?
Talk to me, my friend.
Well, first of all, Bill Maher didn't give anything to anybody. He entertained them. So I would say this. And you know this. I'm not dogging you. If I need permission from somebody on TV to think about anything, then I deserve to be taken advantage of, used, and manipulated as a result of that ridiculous need to have permission. And this is my challenge to anyone listening. The next time you comment, and this includes me because I fall into this is a really bad habit. The next time you comment on anything to anyone, this is what I challenge you to do. Stop before you speak and try not to repeat something you heard somewhere else. That is such a bad habit. I grew up doing that. Oh, I'm smart. I can read books. I can repeat. I can regurgitate. That's what the education system does. You consume the information, you regurgitate it on a test, and we give you a grade. And then we give you the mortarboard and the sheepskin, and then you move on, and you're now educated. It's really, I love it when you talked about these people attacking you on your blog. They're just emotional junkies. And that's a problem. Right. Is we have too many emotional junkies in this country. I'll be honest with you. I only know a handful of people who would seriously call themselves atheists, and they're some of the most deep-thinking people that I know. They have incredible depth of knowledge. They're incredibly insightful, and they use rationality. And as you well know, religion is the total opposite of that.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something before you finish. It is ironic because, like I mentioned in the second blog that I just wrote, a lot of these people attacking me were, in fact, yes, atheists. Little do they know, I am actually a member of the atheist group here in Kingwood. Okay, I haven't been to a meeting in a few months, but I go to the meetings for exactly the same reason that you put out there. These are people that are generally not looking to regurgitate information as you speak about, but they want to get absolutist type information, or they want to get corroborative information, etc. By the way, I am not, however, going to knock anybody who has a religion, because you know what? Even as a humanist, I understand how much I don't know. You know, and I think I'll give you another joke, folks. Not another joke, just something that I believe. You see, the president goes out there and he goes to church and all of that. I think the president is an atheist, just like a lot of folks who think like us, just like a lot of humanists, etc., etc., etc. However, you're correct. These are thinking people. That is one of the reasons I thought I could write the post from the direction that I wrote the post, and that is the reason why I actually, when you hear me talk about Bill Maher giving many permission to feel a certain way, it is exactly for what you say. Most people today, Shepard, the way they think is they need peer permission, that peer justification to do certain things. I live here in Kingwood, a rather conservative place. Folks can be whatever they want to be, but when we discuss policy, It is amazing how many people would sit down with me in a Starbucks and agree with me wholeheartedly. A friend walks into Starbucks and see them talking to myself, and they summarily change the conversation and summarily say, all right, nice talking to you. I need to go, and fall back into that level of comfort that they have with the ideological peer. That is the kind of stuff that we have to break in the long run. And it starts from things like I like what you said there. When you write a post, make sure it is not just a regurgitation of something you heard elsewhere. Come back and Shepard.
Yeah, this is another really important point that you really made me think of, and I love the previous caller. I like that, man. It's like, hey, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Let's dice it up a little here. This is a big problem, and I do this too. We all do this. We hear something, and this is what we do. We mistakenly believe that the source of the information automatically dictates the quality of the information, i.e., he's a PhD, i.e., he's on a network. We have become so drowned in garbage, it's hard for us to see the diamond in the rough. And I love having conversations with people. And I've got plenty of friends that are Christians, and they're smart, and they're hardworking, and all this and that and the other. And none of that really matters. Exactly. I love the fact that you ask people to just open your damn mind. It doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean the other guy, Greg, is right. It just means just stop parroting all this garbage, because what we really do, typically out of habit and laziness, is we just parrot what we've heard. Now, here's the reason why we do that. And then I'll be quiet. Because thinking and using your rational mind, it takes work. And most of us mistakenly believe that working 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week is actually work. That's not work. That's nothing but habit and training. The kind of work I'm talking about is in your mind, taming your mind and quieting all the garbage that's in there, because just because you hear a voice in your head doesn't mean it's you. It's all the crap that's been put in there. And to weed through that and to really focus, it takes a lot of work. It really does. I really, really appreciate your show. Thank you so much.
Well, look, thank you for being. I just love the callers that I get. And, folks, please do remember the number is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. I would love to hear from you. Now, look, for the amount of flack that I took on that blog post, over 1,000 messages, and for the type of the anger that I saw, I immediately put on that post that I was going to have a show today to discuss, to let any of those folks that decided that they didn't like what I had to say to really be able to come on here and express themselves. We are very easy to talk to because we are the coffee party. We are only believe in civil conversation, and in civil conversation means you get you get to express whatever point of view you want to express. I kind of have a feeling many of these people put a post down there, they hyperventilate, they leave. I have a feeling many of them didn't even read the actual post to get the nuance in the post and the importance of the post. So here we are with our rather smart list of guests who I hope they in the podcast of this will listen to, because having Greg, Shepard, let me bring in Jack. Jack, how are you doing today, my friend?
Okay. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. More and more conclusion that about stinking thinking, that I'd analyze stinking thinking. And I haven't been in contact with Bill Maher for a long time, but that's not the point. There's two things, maybe three, that I want to hit on. And the reason we have all these wars and with the same thing, the right wing, extreme right wing of the Republican Party is very much like ISIS, but I'm not going to go into that right now. It's extremism and fundamentalism are the two enemies of harmony.
Yes, sir.
And we need harmony is to get rid of fundamentalism and extremism, which is the thing of ISIS, and there's a connection with the extreme right wing because they are the same, only they don't do violence. Now, does this lead to violence? Now, we got to analyze, well, this guy in North Carolina or Georgia, wherever state that was in, he is in the same bent as what's his name, Baghdadi. Yes. He's an extremist, militiaman from or blocking things in Nevada or whatever it is. They are extremists too. They're as bad as the ISIS. And speaking of ISIS, we should not honor those extreme Muslims by referring to ISIL, the Levant, or the Caliphate. That is recognizing them as
the state.
It's giving them some respect. We do not
give
these people respect.
Jack, let me ask you to hold a second here, folks. You're correct, Jack. Let me ask you to hold a second. First of all, I love what you said. A lot of what we are doing is elevating these guys. And this is not the subject of this particular call, but I do want to make a mention of what you said, because I think you've made a very, very important call here. Our media has given ISIS, I wrote a blog post that got slammed. I don't remember if it was at Daily Kos or at egbertowillies.com or the Common Dream. One of these places I wrote a post. But what I said is that we are actually creating ISIS, that ISIS is really not what many thought it was. In other words, ISIS is something that if we really wanted to take out tomorrow, we could. Okay, we don't have the wherewithal to do that because we don't want to put boots on the ground. I don't want boots on the ground. Many don't want boots on the ground. Okay, but and not only that, we think it is time for those people who are most dependent on Middle East oil or whatever, if they think it is time for us not to have that problem. But it looked like Shepard wants to say something else real quickly, so let me bring Shepard in. Come on in, Shepard.
Hey, not to interrupt, but I think we need to look at a very simple thing here. The word ISIS, they've been hammering this thing in the media. I want you to picture in your mind the word ISIS. If you have a piece of paper, write it down. ISIS. We all know that comes from Egypt. Okay, ISIS was a god. A goddess.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Male, female, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Look at those two. Look at those letters. Take the S and stack it on top of the S. Take the I and stack it on top of the I. That's where we get the $sign from, people.
Yeah.
Okay, this word wasn't haphazardly chosen. This word was chosen for a very specific reason. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Shepard, I tell you something, buddy. I had not heard. I thought I've heard it all. I had not heard that one. Look, Greg has been silent for a while. I want to get Greg in a little bit, but first, look, we only have about 12 minutes or so. I don't have any ladies calling in. These shows all these talk shows, including the one I do on KPFT and on Move to Men Report. Mostly guys call in. I am trying to work on that paradigm. Women have a lot to say. In fact, I think if women spoke more on shows like this, their real thoughts and beliefs, we would have a better country, because we have to have everybody not only in the background but in the forefront speaking. So women, where are you? Get into the debate and make your voice heard, because a lot of your voices sure as hell beat a hell of a lot of our voices. Want to hear from you guys, ladies. I'm going to be trying to get more women on these shows. Women, the number 646-929-2495. We don't have to have Hillary Clinton, which, she's probably going to, win the Democratic primary. I'm really not particularly a fan, but we need women of all stripes to, come on, get in there and push us around the way we need to be pushed around to make sure things get done right. Greg, come on in.
I'm sorry, we have another Greg on the line.
This is Greg Rosak.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so obviously another very interesting conversation. I agree, Egberto, we need more voices of all types in this kind of discussion. And I guess one of the things I might say sort of as a closing comment would be that the criticism that has been directed towards, and somewhat justifiably towards Bill Maher, far less justifiably towards Sam Harris, I believe is born out of and I say this not in a pejorative way, born out of an ignorance of Sam Harris and his work, or a misinterpretation of his work. I'm obviously a fan of Sam Harris. I've read his books. And the point he makes consistently in these books is that what cannot be denied are the elements of the teachings that we talked about earlier, and that it is those teachings that form the core values and beliefs of those followers to some degree or another, to a point, unfortunately, for a precious few extremists to actually take action on some of those more horrendous aspects of their belief. And so what you cannot do in that conversation is eliminate the role that religion plays in the thinking of those individuals and the actions that they take. Atheists, to my knowledge, and I don't profess to be any kind of religious expert, but to my knowledge, and speaking as an atheist, nowhere in my core values is there something written that says, if you don't believe as I do, you should be killed. That's kind of all I have to say.
And it's important, Greg. What you had to say is important, and it is also important to realize that what you've just said is not mutually exclusive to what I've been trying to say. And not only that, but I don't want to call it attack, but to the problem that I have with Maher and Harris. In other words, let's forget about the polls that Harris speaks about, because I don't trust them, and I think most of us should not trust the polls, and that's fine. It doesn't discount what he has said correctly about the religious influence on some. That is correct, and look, you can still like Sam. Look, my biggest post today was a Bill Maher post, because Bill Maher did a great piece on the media last night, an excellent piece on the media. I am able to compartmentalize a person, because we are all complicated people. I am wrong on issues, and when folks prove me wrong on an issue or that I've been thinking wrong on an issue, I have no problem accepting that. I think the same should occur with folks like, I love what Greg Shepard said before, because he said one of the problems that we have as a society is we read somebody that has a PhD behind their name or a whatever, anchor or whatever, and immediately we give them absolute, whatever they said is absolute. Again, I believe in a lot of what Sam Harris has to say. I think, however, some of the conclusions that he, along with Bill Maher, espoused on that show, I think they were pretty dangerous. And I think they were pretty dangerous just because of what, channeling Shepard again, Greg Shepard again, that because we know we're a society of people who get permission from the PhDs or the anchors or the popular to make their moves, those people who have the ear, the eyeballs of those people have to be responsible. It is the reason why I write. I have my writing style, and I'm a newfound writer, but my style has changed because as the amount of folks that read my stuff has grown a whole bunch, I take it seriously that I have a responsibility, or you, when you blog, Greg, you have a responsibility as your coverage grows to not cause harm, and realize that a lot of people are looking at what you are saying and I think that comes with a bit of responsibility that has to be self-policed. And I think in a lot of ways Bill has not self-policed that influence that he has. And I know he's just a comedian, Shepard. I know that, but he has influence and he has followers. Now, again, we can have your thought is not mutually exclusive from my thought. I just think it comes with more responsibility that we must take. Shepard, you want to add to that, Greg?
Yeah, here's something interesting. Let's look at the word follow. Just use the first part of that word, fall. That's how you pronounce it, fall, F-A-L-L. Now, I'm not being cute. This is important stuff. Well, I'm a follower of, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a follower of Buddha. I'm a follower of rock and roll. I'm a follower. We need to look at what the word means. It means to fall. It doesn't mean it just means.
I'm waiting for a book from you. Okay, I really am, because you have some interesting thoughts that you make, and I like the way you put it. It has a certain ring to it. So I'm waiting for your book, dude.
I'll tell you this. I got off of Facebook for 6 months just because I wanted to just step away and just see, not like, gee, can I stay away? I just said, I'm just going to take a break, and it turned into 6 months. And what you can do is you can deactivate your account. You don't delete it. You just deactivate it. And then I came back on because there's a very, very small handful of people that I really do want to stay in touch with. We go way back into the 1980s. And I reconnected. And, of course, I do blog, and I wanted to post a few things there, but I'm not a big blogger. But I did post the other day. This is very simple. I said, I just realized what the name of my New York Times bestseller is going to be. And the name is simply this, Pouring Coffee by Flashlight.
Hey, you know what? I love the title because it even kind of comes into the coffee party thing. Hey, you just mentioned being a blogger, and I know that Greg blogs as well. I want to let you guys know that I am in continuous search as the director of the newsroom in Coffee Party USA. More bloggers. I want original. Not I want. We want, because we are a team and I see Kathleen Morgan is on here. Kathleen is one of the directors, one of the cheerleaders, the chairpersons of the newsroom. We want a lot of original content bloggers. Somebody like myself, I blog 1 to 6 times a day, depending on the issues that are going on. But if you're a 1 time a week blogger, a 1 time a month blogger, if you are any one of these kinds of people, we want you in our newsroom. Now, the newsroom, I think we're going to have the requirements that you need to be a member of the Coffee Party USA, which is inexpensive, to be a original content blogger at our site. But the thing about it is, listening to you, Greg, well, I know Greg Rusek very well, and Greg is a hell of a writer, and many times I've been begging the dude to get back into the poll and put a lot of those words out because I need it. But in speaking to you as well, Greg Shepard, I think your name is Greg Shepard. You have Debt Shepard. I don't know what the hell you call you, but anyway, we need good, original content folk that make you think. One of the reasons I love to do this show is that is what we have here. Original thinkers that are able to put it in a manner. Sometimes my dear friend Greg, I know Greg sometimes you get pissed off at some of the things out there, but even that we want. So I want all you folks to consider, for those that are writers and all of that, I want you to get your own blogs. I want Bobby Rodriguez getting his stuff put together. I want you guys all in the fold. Greg Rosak, give me a closing statement.
Another great conversation, Egberto. I'd love to be able to make some more time and get re-engaged with the coffee party. I'm working towards that objective. Things are a little busy right now. I'm making excuses, as you can hear, but maybe you'll see me back here in a better way, hopefully sometime soon. And thanks for all the kind words. I appreciate that.
Love to hear that, Greg. Let's go to Senor Jacques. Come on in, my brother.
Okay. Didn't finish what I was following, but you mentioned something about nuanced thinking. That is that we should stress.
I got to cut you, Jack, and ask you to give me a closing statement because I have a tight window.
Well, I intend to join I keep saying I intend to join the coffee party. Just keep in contact with me. The only thing we had, I'll go back to the words of Walter Winchell back in 1942 when I was 11. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The only thing we have to hate is hate. And the only thing we have to be intolerant of is intolerance.
Thank you, Jack. You're a good man. Keep coming and you keep to the show. And Jack, go join the coffee party, my brother. You know you are already family, so get on in with it, my dear brother. Okay, Shepard, come on in, my friend. What should I call you, damn it?
You can call me Shepard. That's what most people call me. But my real name is Greg. This is my closing thought. If you're listening to my voice, you need to decrease the amount of information that you're pouring into your mind, because there's a really good chance, and I'm not insulting you, that the vast majority of it is nothing but garbage. Okay? Just be selective. Use your wisdom. Now, here's the key. Knowledge is the first piece. That's the gathering of the information. This is where the real work is, integrating the knowledge into your current experience. Not what happened to you 20 years ago, and not what you wish will happen to you in the future. What's happening to you right now. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you very much, Det Shepard. Folks, this has been another great show, great callers as usual, and this will be in podcast. I usually put it on YouTube as well for folks who like to listen to this stuff on YouTube. I'll try to have it up later on this afternoon or tomorrow. Thank you very much for giving me the time of day to listen to the show. It is quite, I very well appreciate it. I want to ask you guys to make sure and share these shows, because as you can see, we have some very smart callers out here that have a lot to say, and we try to do all of this in a very non-confrontational way. Please do remember that we have 3 coffee party shows that are ongoing on Sundays at 8:30 a.m. We have I Take Liberty with My Coffee with Bobby Rodrigo. On Thursdays, we have at 3 p.m. Eastern, we have Lunch with Loudon with Janine Loudon. And, of course, here you are with me, Egberto Willies with Politics Done Right. Please go to coffeepartyusa.com and join us. Be a member. Be a part of the media. Be the media. Coffee Party is doing a whole lot of stuff. We are moving forward, book clubs, and going forward. So please do join us at coffeepartyusa.com. You have a wonderful Saturday. Again, I really do feel honored for you having listened to the show. Happy Valentine's Day. C'est la vie.